morning, good morning, good morning. It is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. Hello, November. It's time for giving season. I hope everyone had a great week. Happy to see you guys here. Took last week off, had a little vacay with the family, but good time overall. Well, not but good time, a very good time. We were in LA last week and a part of this week. Had a really good time with my wife and daughter, and I hope you guys had a great week yourself. I hope you had your good start to your week as well as a great ending of your week. You're in Nonprofit Chicos. Let's get it rolling, y'all. Boom, boom, boom. I got it on replay. Let's go. I'm going to bring it back. It's all right.
The Mike Jordan, the rap, Mike Jackson, the pop. The Mike Tyson, the street airs with no socks. The Hugh Hefner, the game, yeah, and it won't stop. Till I meet the Lord.
Good morning, Shanita. Good morning, Tasha. I'm sorry. Tashia, I apologize. I got some new contacts with you guys, so you're probably going to laugh at me all day because I'm trying to catch these small words, but I got it. And if you guys want to drop in the chat where you're listening in from, and I'm talking to my Clubhouse family here who are in the chat, but of course, if you're catching me online, please do drop in the chat where you're watching from. Appreciate you guys being here. This is Nonprofit Chicos. Today we are going to talk about the beginning of giving season. Now that Halloween is gone, we are in full force, ready to get these turkeys, ready to get this stuffing, ready to get your sweet potato pie, depending on what your desserts are. But besides that part, it's also to kick off the giving season. Giving season is one of the best times of the year to really get your donors and community engaged in supporting your efforts, but people really are in the spirit of giving in this time of the year. And you want to make sure you activate that for your mission, for your nonprofit, so that you can do as much impact as possible. So are you ready for giving season? Matter of fact, I hope you are better than ready, because I hope you didn't just start. But if you did just start, it's okay. We got some stuff for you. So I have some great pointers and some great calls to action to get you.
Boy like Frank Rizzo, my neck and bang, jiggle voices, music, forget the track, clap, clap.
Here we go. Come on. Here we go. The crew should be in momentarily, but I'm going to get it working without them until everybody comes into the room. I like to look at Thanksgiving as kind of the launch pad of the giving season, but we don't have to wait till Thanksgiving. We know that it's a lot of consumerism that kicks off in this month. So people start spending a lot of money. The ideal is, with all of those transactions going on, with all that purchasing going on, people are more willing to give and sometimes have a higher consciousness of communities and segments of our population that may not have the same resources. So I'm highly encouraging you, if you have not thought about it, to get prepared to get on your giving. All right, really to get your nonprofit or your mission active to get some of the residual of this giving and giving season. So I hope you're thinking about it, if nothing else, but we're going to give you some real actionable steps that you can use for your organization to get yourself activated. Good morning, Lisa. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing really well.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. How was this week so far for you? Pretty good?
Yeah, this week was really good. It was productive. And but I want to hear all about California, so I'll go back on mute.
Good stuff. Yes, California was really good. I'll definitely give you the digest, the replay of California. You had a great time in California. Interesting thing about going to LA at this time of the year specifically is that you kind of see some different stuff. you really see some different stuff. I always like the festiveness of the fall season and even Halloween. I know it's, all kinds of different viewpoints of Halloween and whether you celebrate that or not celebrate that. I'm definitely not really into the dark side of Halloween, but I do like the festivities of dressing up and having that time to kind of that crisp of fall, going outside and doing some fall activities. So all about that. And I am an avid horror house, I guess not horror, but going to the haunted house. I do like it. I like the funness of it to allow yourself to be scared. But I'm also conscious of some of the connotations. So, but all that being said, this was a really interesting and fun week to hang out in LA. You got to see some good, some bad, and some crazy. But overall, really great trip. No issues whatsoever. One thing I forgot, Lisa, and I know you're in Atlanta. I forgot what LA traffic's like. LA traffic, I think Atlanta, LA, where else?
Yes.
New York City. Yes, we were looking at GPS, and as I'm looking at GPS, I got 2 miles to go, and it's telling me like 30 minutes. Like, why is it taking me 30 minutes to go 2 miles? Crazy.
Right.
LA traffic is a different beast, to say the least. But I personally, and again, all different opinions, but I personally love Los Angeles. I just think it's something different in the air. Now, some people might say smog, but I love the casual, calm nature that you get in Los Angeles and the West Coast. And again, maybe it's just me, but I think sometimes you find what you're looking for. So I look for that, but it just seems that the temperament is more kind of que sera. It's not my experience anyway. Again, maybe it's just where I'm at, but it just doesn't seem like they're really tied up with small things. So you're like, oh, hey man, how you doing? No, you go first. So that's been my experience. I don't know what other people's experience are with the West Coast, but I do enjoy it. Great time. We stayed in North Los Angeles, and obviously we traveled all over the city. We didn't get to go. Typically, we like to go a day in San Diego, but we didn't get to go this time. But had a really good time. Funny enough, we kicked the trip off by I've never gone to the Universal kind of Halloween thing they do. This kind of supposed to be over the top because it's Universal Studios Hollywood, so it's literally on the grounds of a movie studio of sorts, or has access to movie studio assets, from pyrotechnics to stage sets. Really, really an amazing place to be. So we went there on our first night there last Saturday, and it was really a very immersive, really, really cool experience. And it was my wife and I and our 13-year-old daughter. So it was really cool. And she's at the age now where she's a little older, so she can kind of hang out a little differently. And I thought it was a great experience there. But is it just me and maybe where I was at in the country? It was getting cold. I know it's November, but we are in Raleigh, North Carolina right now. But I'm telling you, the hawk is in the air. I feel like I'm back home in Western New York. The hawk was in the air this week. Lisa, did it get cold in Atlanta any this week, at least in the mornings?
Yes, it's really chilly in the mornings, but then it ends up being like in the mid 70s during the day.
Right.
Makes it really nice. And
Right.
it'll be really nice next week as well. So it's still fall, but looking forward to just beautiful fall weather during the day.
So I love this time of year. I mean, absolutely love this time of year. It is my favorite season. But how many of you also are dealing with the 3 outfits or 2 outfits a day? It's like you literally have to leave the house with 1 outfit, and then you have to change midday or you burn up. It's like it's cool, but it's kind of pain in the butt to have the sweater or the sweat jacket, or yesterday a straight coat. I had my pea coat on yesterday. Yesterday morning in Raleigh, it was 29 degrees. So it was a little different type of cold. It wasn't just a little bit. It was cold yesterday. But by 3 o'clock, it was, I think, 74, 75. And I know for a lot of us, it's going to be in the 80s in this week coming up. So it is that time of year where you get to really show your wardrobe, because you get so many different times. Or I know a lot of people like to do this. I like to do this myself. You get to layer. So you start off with layers of heavier, a sweater or something you get to kind of peel off as you go through the day. So I think that's kind of cool. And I know if I see some of our some fashionistas in the audience here. So if you like to do those layers and show off that wardrobe, this is the time of year for you. Good morning, Rasan. Good morning, Cynthia. Good morning, Keisha. Good morning, Deshaun. Good morning, Melvin. Good morning, Linwood. And good morning, Ava. Talking to our Clubhouse family here. Thank you guys for being here with us this morning. I hope you didn't miss us too much last week, but then again, I kind of hope you did, because I'm glad to see you guys back. Last week was a good week off. Take a week off every so often. Not often. We try to be here. I believe consistency is key. So very happy that you guys are riding with us this morning. And just to get the show kicked off really quick, we're going to go in full form here with the intro. It's Saturday morning. Do you know where your funders are?
To see that they're a part of them.
Just want to thank you all because, I feel as though that you all was placed in my life for a reason.
Still step up and give you what it is. Let's go.
Nonprofit Cheat Codes with your nonprofit dream team, featuring Tiffany Allen, Amit Dakar, Gerald Moore, Lisa Tinsley, McKeel Shaw. Nonprofit Cheat Codes.
I was going to be quiet.
It's Saturday morning. Do you know where your funders are? Let's go. Again, you guys, good morning, and thank you for being here with us. Today is Saturday, November 4th, 2023. And Lisa, I apologize. I was playing the old intro, so that's not the intro that you're in yet. But you are here 100%. I appreciate you. Good morning.
Oh, thank you. Well, actually, I heard my name.
I said it.
Okay.
I said it in there, but yeah, no.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty smooth.
I hit the wrong button on the deck over here, but it's all love. It's all love.
No problem. Well, thank you. No, yeah.
Absolutely. Got to be impromptu. People on the screen saw me do it.
Right. Yes. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Absolutely. Good morning, all. Happy to have you guys here again, wherever you are listening or watching in from. If you're on our streaming channels, please do represent your city. Throw in there where you're listening in from. I know many of you are coming in from all different parts of the country. Really happy to have you here. Really good morning. It's a crisp fall morning as I look out of my we call this the loft down here. It's almost like an upstairs den, and this is where my home office is. But as I look out the windows here, it is the most crisp blue morning, and I think it's actually accentuated by the fall colors of the trees in our neighborhood. So really a beautiful view, and I hope wherever you are listening or watching from that you have a great view as well, more so your internal view than just your physical view. I hope you have a great state of mind, and I hope that you had a really productive week in whatever plights that you are in. I appreciate you guys being here again this morning. We are really going to jump in this week to talk about how to truly unwrap this giving season to get it kicked off for you. So whether you have a 501c3 or you are a business owner, which is also another form of a business 501c3, whether you're a for-profit or nonprofit, we hope that you are preparing to activate for this giving season and take full advantage of all of the real opportunities that it presents for you and your organization. We know as much as people are giving, there are lots of people who suffer more during the holiday season. All right. There are many people who are homeless. There are people who are in abusive relationships. There are people who have food insecurities, and whatever that space is that your population that you service in, or a population that you really are invested in is in, we know that the holiday season can bring extra stresses to those populations, and we want to be able to be a bridge for that gap. So this is why this is such an important and really powerful part of the year, and I highly suggest that you have a plan, right? It's never too late. I know a lot of people say you start planning for Giving Tuesday, basically on Giving Wednesday of the next day, but I'm suggesting to you it's never too late. All right. And I got some real practical ways to suggest to you to really activate, to be able to do some work and make an impact. Whether you planned 3 weeks ago or if you're starting, or 3 months ago, or if you're starting today, regardless to the fact, there is something that you can do to activate during this holiday season. And I like to look at Thanksgiving as a launch pad, right? It's not, you don't have to wait again to Thanksgiving, but it's really a launch pad, you guys. There are billions and billions of dollars that are being transacted at this time of the year. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it's just a whole lot of consumerism. It's really people just buying stuff because it's bright colored and it has some symbols on it and some holiday leaning words or phrases, and people buy it. All right, and I'm obviously I'm very much guilty of that myself sometimes, because as a very visual person, a visual artist in my career. You can change the package. I'll buy a box of cereal. My wife always critiques me that all they got to do is put a different color on the package of the box, and I'll be like, "Ooh, look at the shiny stars." So I say that because so many of us have some version of that. So, quick sidebar: I'm a big Apple fan just because I learned on apples. I've had apples for over literally probably 30 years of buying Apple products at least. And with that being said, they are probably the top purveyors of really making people or convincing people to buy stuff that sometimes they don't even need, right? Because it's new and shiny. But I noticed this last year, and like I said, I'm diehard Apple. It's a phrase or a joke that says, you can talk about somebody mama before you talk about their Mac. And that may sound silly. If you know some Apple fans, it's probably not too far off. My point being to you is this time around with Apple products, they're really not changing anything. And for a person who really is kind of fanboy, a little geek, if you will, in there, it's really kind of sad that they're not even changing the specs. They're just calling it a new number and they're putting it out and people are buying it, right? Literally. They're literally calling it the new 15, the best phone you never had. And it's the exact same as the 14. And people are buying it. The new Apple Watch, basically all the same. People are still buying it. My point is, with all that being said, this is the nature of our country. It's nothing new. I'm just a little surprised because at least they typically give you a new feature. So it's some incentive that, I got to buy the new one to get this option. And this year, I didn't even see any new option. It's just the new version. Buy it because we're selling it. And I mention that with a little bit of humor and maybe a little snarkiness, because that goes on so much. I mean, literally goes on so much that we just buy stuff because they put a new label on it and they put it on the shelves. So much money is being spent this time of year that you really have to sit back and say, wow, if just a fraction, if just 5%, if just 10% of that expenditure was going towards people who are in need, we literally could change the world. I'm not talking about you giving 20% of your income. I'll be honest with you, I'm not even talking about giving 10% of your income. If we all were just to put 2 to 5% of what we spend on stuff, quote unquote, we could change the world. Right. The ideal is to show other people in our community that they can change the world for people we serve by supporting us and using us as a conduit to do the work. So I hope that if you have not thought about it, that you literally will take the baton with me today and think about how you can leverage some of that towards your mission. And if you don't have a 501c3, towards a mission you believe in. I don't think you have to have a 501c3 to do amazing work, not whatsoever, but you have to be intentional. So we haven't done it, being full transparency, but I want to tell you something that we tried to do a couple years ago. I would probably say pre-pandemic, completely honest. But we would try to go to feed at a food shelter or something, some activity with our kids to show them that it has to be some service involved. We spend a lot of money. We do a lot of investment. You just heard me mention about going to Los Angeles last week. That literally was because we wanted to take my daughter on a surprise trip. And she literally didn't know until the night of. I was going to tell her until we got to the airport. But this little Dickens will be in your business, right? 1 year, sidebar, I mistakenly put the confirmation to the airline on the family calendar. And then she goes, "Oh, Daddy, so when we leaving?" And I'm like, what? And she, oh yeah, I saw it on the calendar. So I got to be a little bit more swift and a little sneaky to get something over on Jenny Bean. But that being said, I mention it because we invest. We think that our family is literally the most important investment that we have, but that's not cheap. So I'm just making a point to say, I think it is important to show our children. I think it's important to show the children in our community, if you don't have children, that service is critical. It's not an option. It's not something that's discretionary, because the fact of the matter is you never know when you're going to need to be served. You're never going to know when you are in need of someone's support. And that's really, and it may sound like a little hyperbole, but I mean it sincerely. We have to make that more of a norm. We have to make that more of a natural way of life for and it starts at home, right? And when I say this, I always think twice, because whether you have children or not, there are probably some children in your life, whether it's a grandchild, you got grandchild, you got children, but whether it's a niece or nephew, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a big brother, a big sister, a little brother, a little sister, there is still probably some children in your purview that you can still invest these ideals of service, especially in a consumer driven society. It really becomes critical. Good morning, Mr. Takara Meat. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Doing very well, my brother. Very well. How was your week so far?
Good morning.
Hey, Lisa. How you doing? Well, week was good. Yeah, it was rough. Well, not rough, but like just a busy week. You know what I mean? There's lots of going on. I had like four board meetings this week with clients, and it's just the timing of it. It normally isn't that packed in a week, and so I feel like I'm just like, and talking about the same sorts of topics. So I'm just kind of happy that I got through it. The good news is that I got through the bulk of what I got to do, so the rest of the month looks a lot better. But it's just the way it's just the timing of things. But no, otherwise that good, making good progress on several things, and so yeah, good week.
Good stuff. Week. Good stuff. And I got to talk to Meet this week, so I always am excited to be able to chop it up with the team during the week. So it was really good to talk to Meet, and
yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate that. Yeah,
absolutely. My pleasure. And really, I get inspired by you guys, because these folks really do good work, and I don't want to make it sound like a commercial, but it is the truth, right? It is what it is. But one thing when we talk about this week was crazy for me, because as I've said here, you guys, we are finally have secured our new space and our new offices for the business and the nonprofit. So that's going to present itself some interesting opportunities. And I'm really excited because we're going to kind of relaunch this holiday season. So we are officially relaunching kind of Team Jenny Bean this season in a whole different way, because we haven't had a physical location in North Carolina where we're located now. So we're going to definitely get a different way. Simplicity. I think it's really important to not confuse people. In marketing, we say when you confuse, you lose, right? The more complex you make something, the less likely people are going to actually execute and follow through. So with that being said, we've tried to streamline what our services are, just our offerings, and we're trying to make it 3 specific things. One is our care kits that we've been giving out for over 5 years now, and we've been very successful, over 500 given out across the country to children facing life-threatening illnesses. And that's been like our kind of bread and butter. It's kind of been our anchor of what we've been known for. But number 2, we also are going to be able to officially launch what we call Portraits with a Purpose, which is where we'll be doing in our studio at the new space. We'll be able to take photos or portraiture of families with children with life-threatening illnesses. And that's a really, really big deal for us. And it's not to be a Team Jenny Bean commercial, but I mention it because I'm really excited. And I hope even inspiring a little bit, because we've had our nonprofit, or we've had this organization before we had a 501c3. It's been a six years now that we've had Team Jenny Bean. And I mention it because when you're doing this work, you sometimes don't realize the impact that you're making or how big the need is, right? And you would think that, well, I've had people tell me, like, I've never heard of a kid who had cancer personally. And it's like, that's a blessing. Thank God. There are far too many thousands of children who face cancer every year. And it is unfathomable. Fathomable, if you say it the right way. I'm tripping over that word. But because obviously you think of children, all kids need to be able to be kids, but imagine being a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old or an infant or a 10-year-old or whatever the age, for that matter of fact, and you got to worry about getting surgeries and having literally short of toxic chemicals pushed through your body to be able to just live, right? So that being said, so we're going to be focused on the care kits, doing the portraits with a purpose. And then the other thing that we are getting ready to launch is going to be pop-up parties where we will, and we've been doing this probably about 11 years now, but we are going to take the party on the road. So we have a full children's entertainment business that we have not used in the last 4 years since we relocated to North Carolina. But we have literally here, I think I have over 75 children's mascots, and we actually got a Team Jenny Bean mascot. So we're going to take a little mini dance party to the hospitals for special occasions and holidays and be able to kind of bring the love that way. And the reason why you'll hear these 3 things specifically that we're focused on is because we're all about letting children be kids, or let kids be kids when they're facing the fight of their lives. Simply put, St. Jude's cures people. St. Jude's does amazing research. So many different organizations make major impacts, but we are not focused on that. Not that that's not critical, because it is, but that's not our focus. Our focus is one thing and one thing only: letting children be children while they're facing the fight of their lives. And I say that to you to make a point. You got to get some real clarity with your nonprofit or with your social-based organization of what you do, so people really understand why. Because they're more inclined to support your efforts when they can clearly see how you make a difference. The more super complicated and overt that you do, the more it becomes hard to identify, right? See, the people are the most successful. You know exactly what they do. Am I wrong? Like, literally, the organizations that raise the most money, first of all, their messaging is really stellar, but they're really definitive about what they do. And you don't have to think really hard about it. So when you heard me say St. Jude's is probably in the top 3 of all nonprofits across the country for awareness and for fundraising. And I believe some of the reason is because they are crystal clear about what they do and what they offer. It's no question whatsoever about what St. Jude does and offer. They don't charge parents or families a dime when a child is going through treatment there, period. All right. And they medically fight to keep kids alive while they're also doing amazing research on the front of pediatric cancer. So I'm just using that analogy or example to say, the more clear and concise you are with what you do, the more likely it's going to be for people to want to align with you and be able to support your mission. And I'm saying that to you very intentionally, because at this time of year where people are spending literally billions of dollars, it may be nothing to drop a 5. It may be nothing to drop 100. It may be nothing to drop their loose change towards your mission. So, Lisa, Amit, have you seen, I'm just saying overall, have you seen the, for instance, in the stores, you start seeing the keep the change cups. You start seeing advertisements say, will you let us take the balance, whatever that change left on your bill, and donate towards? Have you guys seen any of that? And it's not this time of year, but this time of year really goes on 100.
Yes, I've noticed it recently, but I've also noticed, I don't know if this is just me, but the day, I think it was November 1st, I started noticing more St. Jude TV commercials.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if that's part of their strategy where they really just go all in on their advertising at the end of the year.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. So, and then also, I know some restaurants that I go to have been adding more features as far as like like rounding up your purchase to support XYZ organization.
Absolutely. I'm very popular. Or let me funny that you say that, Lisa. Let me sidebar a little bit with the ideal. And I know you've all seen it because I saw it this weekend, probably because I was just a little bit more acutely aware. Every single where you can buy anything to eat, and I don't even think it's just food anymore, you can tip. Because of the apps that people are using to do purchases, everywhere you can buy a morsel, a drink, anything that you consume, you can tip. And it's like, well, I mean, I get about giving, right? So I don't want to be controversial about giving because giving is important and service is important. But on the same note, why am I tipping you for ringing out my chips? Like, have you guys seen that at Meet, Lisa? Any of you, the audience? Raise your hand.
Yes, yeah. Actually, my mom and I had this conversation last night about tipping because I went to a restaurant yesterday and with a friend and the tip was automatically included in the purchase.
Right.
And it was a meal, but and it was 18%, which was okay. But I usually tip a little bit more, so I didn't give any extra because I'm like, you just shortchanged yourself.
Right.
Yes.
No, Amit, have you said? Amit, I know you are a really appreciator of good design, good cuisine, because all the restaurants. Whenever I go out to eat with Amit knows exactly where to go to get anything that's delicious in upstate New York. So have you seen that same anywhere? And I mean, literally, I'm not saying that's a good thing.
Is that a way that's a little chubby?
That's not a shot of me. That's not a shot. That's not a shot. But I'm saying, have you seen it? Like, where it doesn't matter if you're sitting down.
Oh yeah,
it's a tip on that screen.
Oh yeah. Well, I think a couple things. One thing is you guys are exactly right. The change up, you know what I mean? As you're saying, a round off to the next dollar,
right? And
just tipping, absolutely. You know what I mean? I think what I did read on that was, I'm trying to remember. I think it was, essentially, I think they're looking for people, to work because there's just not people working in some of those businesses, and so this is another way to sort of compensate, them, or incentivize people. You know what I mean? Because if you work at a restaurant, you get a tip. But if you work at Subway or whatever, I'm not picking Subway, you might not get a tip, but now you can actually.
Right,
So I think it's sort of like, I think they're trying to use it as a retention tool or a recruiting tool.
Incentivize.
Right, yeah. To get people to do that. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I've definitely seen that. I think it's really powerful. And you know what? Especially this time of year, it's like, you know what? Yeah, absolutely, I'll round up. You know what I mean, right? Or whatever. Or you know what? I'll do a tip just because it's just there's a lot of people that are suffering out there, right? Just given the economic situations, right? And so, but I will say this. Let me say one thing. We need to have this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but let me just say this. We need to have a national discussion in this country, okay? Like a national meeting about how we tip. I don't understand. Like, I don't know where I should tip anymore.
Right.
I go to my dry cleaner. Should I tip?
Right.
Should I go to the restaurant? Do I tip?
Right.
The guy that parks my car, which that doesn't happen all the time, but things like that, I get that. And there's people I think who deserve to be tipped.
Absolutely.
Because they're doing something that aren't. So, and that's the first thing. I just want to throw that out there just for the group. So the second part of this national meeting is like, when I order things on one of the the food delivery services, DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats or whatever the case may be, I don't know. The larger the bill, listen, I always tip the driver because I think it's important. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they also are getting paid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's sort of like I don't know. I think we just need to have a discussion in the country about what is the protocol?
Right.
How do we do that? You know what I mean? And like, how do we? If I get food from an expensive place, which I don't do that all the time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the person who delivered that food to me, it cost them the same thing if I'd gotten it from McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? And so like I just feel like I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't want to be a Scrooge here, but I feel like we need to have a little bit of a better protocol on this, because it just seems like if you buy something from a more expensive place, there's a bigger tip, but it's the same amount of work that's being done. But you know, if you're in a restaurant, obviously there's service there too. So I don't know, just throwing it out there. I don't
No, I think that. Go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, actually, I have a tax question for Meet regarding tips and restaurants that offer the roundup service. So is it a tax write off for that business? Like whenever they have the roundup, feature, during your purchase, like is that a tax write off for that business?
No, I don't think so, Lisa, because I think you're paying for that, right? You know, when you round up, it's coming out of your bill, right? So if your bill was $18.40, you know what I mean, and at 60 cents to round up to 19, you're paying for that. So I don't know, but I would believe that since the customer is paying for that, that would be not a write off for them because they're charging you for that. So your credit card, or you would pay $19, right? So it's coming out of your payment. So that would
okay.
So that's a good question, but that would be my understanding of it. Yeah.
So, got it. All right. Thank you.
Well, I think, and going back to the point, it can be different. I think and I'm looking at some notes here as we're talking. So standard tipping is 15 to 20% for the United States, and it's different across the country too. Not across the globe, it's different. Of the pre-tax bill. Right, the pre-tax bill. All right, and that's another thing most of us probably never think about. Like, man, I'm looking at what the bill says the total is, and that's what I'm tipping off. But they're actually suggesting or saying that that's supposed to be pre-tax, before the taxes are added in. And then for taxis, is 10 to 15% on the fare. And then for hotel staff, like a bellhop or what have you, they're typically tipped $1 to $5 a bag. Or
okay.
I don't know if you guys can relate to this, or per trip if they're coming up. So my wife specifically loves to have towels brought to the hotel room, and I would say, well, we got it. And this is the other part, and I want you guys to kind of laugh at me a little bit here. I don't carry cash often anymore. And it's not because, I'm too good for cash. I just typically don't have cash. If I don't intentionally go to our safe or have some extra money because I had a transaction, I very rarely carry cash anymore. So oftentimes, you got to think about this now. This is a little funny, but real. Serving staff across the whole spectrum, from food to service to driving. Now, some of those have apps, obviously, and tipping is built in how to tip. But where were we at recently? Okay. At the hotel we were at, we had valet service, and I typically don't have cash. So how do you tip the valet now? And when Gerald isn't here today, but when we were at the conference in Orlando, we had a lot of service staff in the hotel, and they would come and do certain things. I think specifically talking about bags. If you don't have cash, how do you tip them? To me, now I'm gonna put it out here. And if you blow up, I just want a little taste. You just send me a little cut. But that is an amazing opportunity or business idea that would be a game changer for service staff. And I'm shocked that Cash App or one of these services haven't tapped into how to let livery staff or bellhops or some of these folks have different ways of collecting money besides tips. Even if you had, and I know there may be rules at place, I saw this QR code lapel pin, and you can get custom QR code lapel pins in where you would be able to tip people without having cash. So I know I probably talked that way longer than it should have been, but if you've ever encountered it, it's really, you feel bad because it's like, well, I don't have any cash. I don't really carry cash anymore. I don't know if either of you have related to that or can relate to that, not having cash and still wanting to tip.
Yes, I've asked for their Cash App or Zelle, and then I'll send it to them that way.
Right. If they have that. Now, most may have some form of it. What about you, Amit?
Oh yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I've been embarrassed many times because you want a tip and I just literally don't have any. You know, the only time I have cash
Yes.
is if I go out to we're back about eat again here, but or doing something with a group of people and I pay I charge it and they all pay me cash. You know?
Right. Right. That is exactly my point. I literally never carry cash anymore. And being the money guy here, that is obviously a trend because of this new digital economy we have. People don't carry cash. They're not intentional. I mean, we don't really work in cash anymore.
Yep.
But that means, for a lot of us, that means that a lot of people are no longer getting a portion of their income that was a regular way of them supplementing the money they make. So that's a big deal. I think that's very relevant to this topic and us talking about donations and whatnot. Now, if you're paying in the store, it's already built in most of these places where you can transfer. Now, I'll say this too. I'm probably going to stir the pot here, but I'd much rather...
Stir it up.
Right, but stir it up, right? So think about it. Now, I also would always rather give a server cash than to give that kind of house tip. Because I always kind of think, are they really getting the money? I don't know if anyone ever thought that way before, but I always think, like, when you're taking this percentage, are the people working really getting the money? Are you really disseminating this money to them? Or is this a ploy for the organization or not the company to make a bigger bottom line? And that could be a thing. I know that may sound like poor practice, but I'm sure it's not as strange as it may sound, that some people are not getting the tips that are being afforded to them, and that to me is a little disappointing, to say the least.
Yeah, Mike, I think I know a couple of people that are restaurant owners, and I think what's interesting is I think it goes both ways. From what they said, if you give them cash, and again, every restaurant's a little different, so it's not there's no right. I think if you give cash, they get it directly.
Okay.
But some places actually you're required to put the cash into a kitty.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're not required
Everybody
that way.
shares, right? Absolutely.
Right. And remember, they also, in some of these places, also the back of the house gets a tip too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the dishwasher, right? Or the, and I don't know the how it all exactly works, but in some places, I think probably ones that are less formal, it goes directly to them. And so I think it's different, but no, you're right. I wondered that too. It's like, because you really make a point of trying to do something nice for somebody because they've done something nice for you. They've given you good service or they've given you good food and they're good, whatever, and pay attention. And you just, I want you to, but I think from what I understand, I'd love to hear if anybody has any more definitive information.
Raise your hand and come up to the stage and share, because maybe you have a different insight. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's say this too, being very frank, there are people where their tips are how they feed their children. So it's not a pat on the back. Oh, you did such a good job, like you're a puppy or something. I mean, literally, is how. No, I'm not saying that you and me. I'm just saying this ideal when we think about tipping is, we'll kind of see. First, now let me say this. Now, if you give us horrible service, I don't think you deserve to be.
Now, I was just going to say it. Michael, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to ask the question. I'm glad you brought it up. I don't want to stir the pot with everybody.
Stir it up.
But what is that protocol? Right now, I've had this discussion with a lot of people, and first of all, it takes a lot to do bad service, right? I mean, this isn't like you ask twice and something, no big deal. It's like really bad. So what do you do? Do you still give something? Do you not give something to make a point to let them know that? I don't know. I'd love to hear what people say, because that's the other. This is the third part of that national meeting we're going to have on tips later today. How do we handle this? How do we handle bad service? Like, I'm talking bad service, not like just whatever people's busy, they're not able to. I'm talking just straight out bad service. I'd love to hear what people have to say about that.
Well, no, let me jump in again. So let me say this. If you have not been a server before, I think it's a job that everybody needs. Almost like getting your license. You got to give at least 6 months to being a server, because it teaches you about service in a way that not much else does. Being a server is really, it's really a lesson in humility. I was a server probably, what was it? Probably 15 through like 17. I was a server, and I was a waiter, and
Where'd you work?
yeah, absolutely. And
What restaurant did you work at?
look, you'll blow up my whole spot. That was at Ponderosa Steakhouse.
Ooh,
Right.
you just said the magic word, man. That my family used to like go to town. At
Ponderosa Steakhouse. Ponderosa. Listen.
Yeah, man. The one on West Henrietta Road, or not the one in Griffith Street?
No, this one was the one. Look, a long time ago. This was one in Chili Avenue in Gates.
Okay.
But I mentioned
sorry to hear that. Sorry.
You got to know the inside joke on that. Anyway, the point I make with you in saying it is that much of who I am today, I would really give credit that to being a server, because I'm a server by nature. I think that's a part of my character. But I will also tell you that you get to find out who people are with service. There will be people who would, and I don't want to get gross here, but it would be people who would eat 80% of a steak and then send it back and go, "This wasn't cooked right. You know, I demand to have another steak." And it's like, yo, man, you just ate all the steak. It's the bone and some grizzle, and you still want another steak. So you get those sides, but then you would get people, again, humility. Some of the seniors would place their dentures on the plate, and you would take plates. And it's like, oh my God, like, are you really taking your dentures off at the table? But within the same regard, there were people, I think the largest tip I ever got was like $250. And it was from an individual. It wasn't from a large party. It was an individual. And I take that back. The largest tip I ever got, I got a job offer. Because he liked the way this gentleman liked my service. He said, "Listen, you need to reach out to me at my company. We need people like you." And I think I was a little young at the time, honestly, but it really taught me tenets of service and knowing how to really lead with service. I mean, servant leaders, but it really did, because you really have to be acutely aware of people's needs. A good server, and tell me if I'm wrong, a good server gives you the feeling that they actually are intuitive. They actually get what you want before you want it, or it feels that way. And that is a good server. They pay attention to, you don't realize, but people are around the corner in the back looking at your drinks. They're looking at your plate. They're looking at your mannerisms, and they can read those things to come back and say, "Hey, let me fill that up for you. Hey, would you like so-and-so with that?" And it's those little details. Think about service that you've gotten. It's the little details and the attitude that make you feel that the service was amazing. I've given people burnt food, not intentionally, but after the fact, I realized, wow, they cooked that wrong, or something wasn't perfect. But the point is that I treated them as such a high capacity of respect and graciousness that the food was irrelevant. And I'm telling you, from being a server before, the food literally was irrelevant. And I've seen it over and over again, because the service was at a certain level. And I will tell you that, me personally, if the service is at a high level, I could almost, I'm not saying I don't want my food, but the food is almost secondary, because the person's attention to you really, it really outshines the product sometimes, or it enhances the product to some extent. So I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but with that being said, it really, I would say for me, so think about who I am today and who I come in here to talk to you guys and we do this show, but I will promise you a lot of that I credit to being a server. It really taught me a lot about knowing how to put people before myself, but also I used to clean up on tips. I would clean up on tips. I was like 16. Sometimes I come home with $150, $200 in tips. And you're working. Like, look, I would have to soak my feet in Epsom salt for about an hour, but I would literally be getting my work on. Let me go to the chat here. I see a couple messages coming through. I'll make sure I respond to them. So one I got online. Stacey, how are you doing today? Thank you for listening in. A sidebar. Stacey needs a sidebar about having cash on you, on your person. I was told by a police officer before that you should have a $20 bill at least in your purse or wallet at all times. The reason why is heaven forbid you get robbed. If you have nothing on you, not even a 20, the robber being desperate committing this act can get extremely upset and have been known to shoot or stab a victim. Wow. All right, that's a perspective, Stacey. So that 20 being on your person can actually save your life. I just wanted to share this information that was given to me by law enforcement. Things that you don't actually think about, right? But can happen anywhere at any given time. Thank you for that tidbit. That is a different perspective. I didn't think of it from that perspective, but I think there are multiple reasons to have at least emergency money on you at any given time. And then I think Asia on Clubhouse says it's easy to get a great tip from me. So I'm sorry, you guys, I'm looking at the small Clubhouse text here, Asia. I feel someone doesn't deserve a tip. I mean, a rude or bad service, I don't think should have to be given one. And I agree. If you're rude or obnoxious and I've had it now, and I don't know about you guys, I don't make this the whole service topic, but I think it is very relevant when we talk about giving. I agree with that. If your service is not just not good, but subpar, rude, no, you do not deserve to get a tip. But I will say, I think I've tipped a couple people with a little commentary about their behavior or service before as well. Amit, Lisa, any feedback on any of those comments or perspectives there?
That was interesting about the $20 on you, so I will have to remember that. So thank you for sharing.
Absolutely, Amit. What do you think? Well, it's funny because I got my little wallet here. This is funny because this is if you can see me online, I know you guys aren't online. We're in Clubhouse, but if you're online, you can see my little wallet here. But I mention it because wallet, everything's evolving, right? So I got my wallet so that I have a tracker on it. So if honestly, it's probably tracking more in the house because I have my little what do you call it? AirTag from Apple to track this. But I also have it because it has the feature on it that keeps people from skimming your card. I don't know if you guys have heard about skimming, but skimming is a practice where, excuse me, I apologize. You could actually pull someone's credit card information or data from their card with a skimmer. And skimmers are little machines, little tech machines that literally can pull the data right off your card. And you can take that data and make a new card or make purchases with it, which is scary within itself, but it's a real practice. I know back home in Rochester, that people were using these skimmers at gas stations. They were actually putting them somewhere in the gas pump and they were skimming people's credit card information. And then later, making new credit cards, and it's not as complicated as it would seem. So let me throw that out there. It's not as high tech or super complex as it may seem. Skimming actually, look, I don't want to give a blueprint, but you could probably Google how to get a skimming machine and how to skim credit cards, which is scary within itself, but it's really going on. So you do want to think about how we are carrying even the digital cash on, and not cash, but digital money on us. You may want to invest in having something that protects your credit. A person literally could be standing within a couple feet of you and pull your credit card data onto one of these little machines and recreate your credit card. Or obviously, they don't need to have your credit card. If they just get your data, they can actually enter your data online. Think of how many purchases I personally make in a day that are all digital, that are all online. That's a scary proposition. Lisa, have you ever thought of that? Have you heard of skimming? I know having Kisa and doing media and some reports, have you ever heard of or working for your company that you may have done some research on this before?
Yes, I am very familiar with skimming and how it works at gas stations. So it is very important to know how it works. One thing, so I've had my debit card number stolen twice.
Really?
And so now, I live in Atlanta, so I'll just leave it at that. But yes, so but actually, so I learned from that now is that I only use one debit card for like everyday purchases,
Okay.
and on that account, I only keep maybe like $100 to use, and then I'll put more money on whenever I need to. So yes, I've learned just to keep, one debit card for like purchases, like everyday purchases, and then when it gets low, I just put more money. I transfer more money to that card, and then actually, in case someone gets that number, then they won't be able to charge a lot, or withdraw a lot on that account.
So, see, I don't know if you caught that part, you guys. I was listening there a different way. So, Lisa was implying there is a lot of money somewhere. but
Well,
she's very specific that she wants to make sure it's not all available on one. No, I'm joking with you. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, what I do, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but what I do is and I wish Tiffany was here because we always debate with Tiffany about Cash App, and people who don't do Cash App, they don't trust Cash App. So I got covered information here. Not that you're gonna get nothing but about 50 cents, but I use my Cash App specifically for that purpose. So I use a Cash App debit card, and I literally keep. I promise I probably keep about probably $10 on it to $20, but I use it for online purchases or purchases where I'm not totally acclimated on the organization. And why? Because you can't overcharge the Cash App. You can't overdraw. You can't do anything but what's available if you do get access to it. So when we were traveling, I actually used the credit card more than I typically would, but I used that because I knew I wanted to get my points off those purchases. But when I'm anywhere wary, but it's something I still want to buy, not wary in the sense I don't trust. If I don't trust it that bad, I'm not going to buy it. But if I'm somewhere where I'm not totally aware of the company or a new purchase, or it's, you see all kinds of internet offers. They're good offers, but you're like, yeah, I do not want to put a card on there that they may be able to get $10,000 off. And I don't know the company like that.
Yeah,
go ahead, mate.
No, I was going to say, the one thing I encourage my clients to think about is a couple things. One is I really discourage the use of debit cards because of the reasons you're just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that on a credit card, your maximum liability for any of these fraudulent purchases is $50, as long as you notify them within a reasonable time, right? So I really encourage people to there's no reason to use debit cards. You know what I mean?
Well, I've heard it. I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, so I really encourage people to try to focus on using credit cards because, anyway, so that's one thing I want people to think about. Now, there's reasons, to use debit cards, obviously, so I'm not saying, don't use them or whatever, but the unlimited liability, so to speak, or not unlimited, but the amount of money that's in your account, that's not a good feature. You know what I mean? So I would definitely think about that. And then I would tell people to continue on an annual basis, try to get a review of your credit too, your credit score. You can get your credit report for free. You know what I mean? So definitely take a look at that and see what's going on. And if you think there's an issue for monitoring or whatever, or I'm sorry, of issues, look at the credit monitoring services. There really are some value to that. It just depends on your usage and what you're doing. But definitely, I've known people who've gone through identity theft issues. Trust me, it's really bad because now everybody can get all this information. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, there's definitely. So anyways, just think about those things. But I would encourage the use of credit cards because of the $50 legal liability there. But you have to just be aware of that. If for the $50 to apply, if there's a fraudulent charge, you have to let them know with a reasonable amount of time, right? So you can't say, 6 months ago this project, no, then you're still liable, right? You know what I mean? So just to be clear to everybody. But I would definitely encourage that. And then the points too. You get points on different those credit cards. So anyway, just some quick thoughts on that.
So no, good stuff for me. Now I have two caveats I'll add to what you're saying though. One, when you talk about that almost like the FDIC. The bank can protect your funds up to $200,000, $250,000. I use that analogy to say that same ideal that you just said, that the credit card will protect you from fraudulent charges. The dilemma is, for some of us, we can't wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever that amount of time may be to utilize the money. I'm just being completely transparent. I have been there at a time in my life where it's like, look, I can't wait to get my $1,000 back in 3 weeks. I got a bill that I got to pay. That's going to throw me in the other quandary if I don't get that money utilized back, number one. But then number two, the other big issue, and I know this from doing financial security training, is some of us can't get a credit card, and that's really a scary but a reality. There are many Americans who cannot get a standard credit card. So Cash App, debit cards, in many cases, are their lifeline to be able to do digital transactions. And even further, I don't go on a total tangent, but it was not for, this is why we've had this discussion here before, for people who talk about like Cash App and some of these other fintech type options for having digital money. As much as you may say, like, don't do any of these things or try not to have them, for some communities and many other communities that we talk about on this platform, they would have no access to digital money if it wasn't for a Cash App, if it wasn't for a Chime, if it wasn't for some of these other services that have made available. Those services have actually opened the door for some populations to have access to digital money. And as much as that may sound like, for you and I, of course, we have a credit card, right? We have multiple credit cards in many cases. I personally try to keep it at 4, just because I don't want to have even the option to overutilize, very frankly. But number 2, we have access on a different way. Now, some of it is also maturity, some of it's experience. And I know different things about credit that I didn't know, very frankly, in some cases 10 years ago, definitely 20, 30 years ago. But I mention it because there are populations who have a real hard task of getting credit and credit cards and having the option of being able to only use a credit card. If you want to be frank, there are populations that we serve that don't have debit cards. It is not because they're being smart. They don't have access because they have an account that's in check systems and they can't get approved for a bank account. And I say this, it may be shocking to some folks. This is a reality for a large population of our country that don't have true access or equitable access to digital funds. And that could literally set them at peril because there's certain transactions that they don't have the ability to do. And then the last part I'll throw in that little caveat is that some of our seniors are not either tech savvy or they have aversions to doing business in a digital way. So I'm not putting my money on no card, or I'm not putting my money through the computer. That's a really foreign ideal. They don't trust. I'm not saying any, obviously, because I have, funny enough, one of my favorite aunts I talked to yesterday, who's in South Carolina, and she is probably the most and auntie is in her 80s, and she is probably one of the most savvy 80-something-year-olds that I've ever met in my life. When I say she texts, she's on Facebook commenting. She, funny enough, last year for my birthday, she Cash Apped me. And I just mention it because I was really impressed. Like that she was, now, Mike, I get and I'm like, wow. But there are far more seniors who don't feel comfortable with doing digital transactions. Can you guys relate in any way, Lisa and me? Contrast me, correct me. Definitely come back and tell me if you see something different.
No, just to clarify, Mike, I didn't mean it as like, let them eat cake, get a credit card. I meant it as such that to the extent that you have a credit card, use that first, right? Just because it's the best way to go. The other thing I would say to people is, banks offer what they call a secured credit card.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something people are working on, again, that requires money up front,
right.
A little bit of money up front.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But I really encourage people to really think about that, because Number one, it builds your credit.
Mhm.
Number two, is the relationship with the bank. Right? So anyways, everyone knows this. So I think that's something to think about. But your broader point of the unbanked situation in this country is it's real good. It's real, you know. And I think there's estimates of 20 million people or so in this country, and generally the lower socioeconomic spectrum, of course. It's always like that, right? People who are the most vulnerable financially
Absolutely. Yeah.
are the most vulnerable, you know, right?
Absolutely.
They're the people who are the lowest, unfortunately, the lowest part of the socioeconomic spectrum pay the most in fees. You know, they pay the most for goods and services. They don't have transparency. You know, all those things. And that's the problem with the system. And yeah, no, you're right. There's 20 million people or so at the Federal Reserve estimates that are unbanked in 2023. How is that possible? That 20 million people cannot get a bank account?
Absolutely.
I think everything what you said is true. So I think that's exactly right. I would just say that there are ways around some of these things with the technology, and a lot of the fintech that's coming up is trying to help alleviate that. It's not going fast enough, right? But certainly, I encourage people to, you know, again, go out, talk to your banker, talk to the banks, talk to people that you know in the business, and say, listen, this is what I want to do. Especially if you're a non-for-profit,
Right.
you know, have those relationships, right? It's not enough to sit back and complain about it, which we all do.
Right.
But it's important to try to develop those relationships. And anyway, so I encourage people to do that. Have a banker, have an accountant, have a mechanic, you know, all those people in your life who can, you know, when times are difficult, can do that. But there's no doubt that the unbanked situation and the access to capital is one of the biggest things that people, you know, that holds people back, is because, you know, a lot of communities who have capital, access to capital, generational wealth and capital, the bank, they're not any smarter than anybody else. They just happen to have access to capital.
Absolutely.
You know? And so it's important to build those things. And it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, but start today, start tomorrow, start whatever. Try to build sort of those relationships and build the resources, because over time, you know, that's a big thing. And the other part of that is real estate. One of generational wealth is real estate. You know what I mean? And so consequently, you know, we've talked about that, the unaffordability and all those things. I hope someone's working on that, you know, but that's another way people build generational wealth, is through having real estate and, you know, being able to access equity in home and that sort of thing as well. So it's complicated, right? But your point in the main is good. But specifically on credit cards, try to see if you can learn how to use those as much as you can, secured or onto whatever it is, because it's really a better way to go than the debit card situation. But I clearly understand, you know, what that means and kind of how that works for a lot of people. So no doubt about that.
Oh, and I think thank you for that. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I think the challenge again, when you talk about the unbanked, it is a real thing. Like, it's not just hyperbole. It's not just a concept. I literally spent almost the last 2 years preceding the last 6 months doing financial security training. And it is really, it's unfortunate. You really don't know if you don't know that there are people out here who can't do basic transactions, which takes away some of your literal your comfort. It takes away some of your ability to do basic things that some of us take for granted because of access, being unbanked or lacks of resources. When we talk about credit, it's a big deal that, you know, we could easily say, well, you know, just get a credit card, you know, you get a credit card. That's not as simple as it may seem. And the meet obviously gives some really great points here when we talk about specifically secure credit cards. I actually teach, I haven't been doing as much in the last 6 months or so, but teach people about how to get that credit journey started. And one of those ways I highly recommend is a secure credit card, and even for your clients sometimes. It may not be for just the people who are listening or people who are watching. I bank with Navy Fed. Navy Federal, you have to have a referral basically from someone, or you got to have someone who's in the military. It could be a grandfather. It could be a great grandfather. It could be a sibling. It could be a roommate that you live with, so many different ways. But Navy Fed, I don't want to make it a commercial, but I've had nothing but a win with Navy Fed. Navy Fed, one thing that's unique about their secured credit cards is all of their secured credit cards graduate to unsecured in 6 months, as long as you never let them be late. You obviously pay them on time, never let them be late, and as long as you, I'm trying to think, I think that's really it. As long as you pay them on time, you never let them be late, and you don't go over your balance, over once or twice, I guess, you bring it back within that 30 days, your credit card is going to graduate to a secured, unsecured credit card, meaning that there will be no restrictions. So that 500 or 1,000 or 5,000 that you put on it for the security, it gets back into a savings account, and then you can take it and do whatever you want to with it. That's pretty amazing. And it's not a high interest secured card. Some secured cards you get, the interest rates are predatory at some of these companies. Sometimes it's a necessary evil. You don't get that at Navy Fed. So I'm just just throwing it out there. If you, or even your some of the clients you serve, or someone in your family that you think of they need some help building credit, I've done it. I really will say the last 3.5, going on 3.5, almost 4 years of having a Navy Fed account, my credit score has gone up at least 100 points. At least 100 points. And I'm mentioning it to you because I was very strategic. Now, for me, everybody may not do it this way. Everybody may not have the ability to do it this way. I was very strategic. I think my first secured card I got with them, I put like $1,000. I put a $5,000 security down to get the card started. You don't need that much. But I knew I wanted that balance available. 6 months, I had a $5,000 credit limit on an unsecured card. And now, I won't get into all my numbers here, but now it's significantly better than that $5,000 over these 3 years of paying, 3.5 years of paying it on time and keeping low utilization. So I'm just throwing that little cheat code out there for you, that if you have not checked them out, if you have a family member or someone who's already a member, reach out to them. And the other thing is, they may not be in your region. So go and look and see where they're at. They don't have to be in your region, though. I have 2 of the banks that I bank with are not in where Navy Fed is in the region, but I also do the National Institute of Health that has some really great programs. If you work anywhere in healthcare, any affiliations with healthcare, you can also get banking and credit cards and great relationships with them. So I just throw that out to you because I think they are, and I wouldn't say them here if I hadn't had my own experience. They are some amazing resources for helping people to either establish or build or re-establish strong credit practices and strong banking relationships.
And Mike, I think that's a great. It makes a ton of sense. It's important to do that. And as you said, you can put down little as, I think my local bank here, credit union, it was like, I think $500. I saw a sign $500 for that. You know what I mean? So it's as little as $500, and that's a lot of money, right? But right. I think being strategic about your finances and doing that, and you know what I recommend to people is, if you do open up a $500 card like that, right, secured card, don't even spend it. Just let it sit there. You know what I mean? Do one charge. You know, that way you know your payments are on time. You're not exceeding the limit. You know what I mean? And then you graduate. That's when you really can, you know what I mean, do some stuff. So that's important.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the advanced level thing is, and I know, Mike, I know you do this, but I recommend it to my clients, is make your kids, or you know, I think it's your kids or whatever, secondary, you know, authorized user on the thing. And you know, so I tell it because it builds their credit, right? So you're building your own financial security in theirs as well. So that's huge. And people say to me, and again, I'll just say it as a caveat, people say, well, I don't want my kid a card. I say to my friends,
they never have to touch
your kid isn't going to get a card. They're not going to get a card. Hey, one might come in the mail. You're going to get the mail, and you're going to cut the card up. Doesn't never get a credit card, right? Right. Absolutely. So it's like, you know, I don't want my kid to have a card. No, your kid's not going to. No, you can have it where your kid does have a card, and you can be teachable moments for them. I think. Absolutely. So listen, everybody has their own way of doing things, but what I recommend is just the secure card. You do it. Don't even spend money on it. Don't worry about it. Just build it, and then get to the unsecured part of it, and that also automatically adds points to your FICO. I don't know if it automatically adds, but it strengthens FICO score. And
good stuff of me.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I think it's important because it's really how you build wealth. So I think it's important to think about those things if you're thinking about that right now.
Absolutely. And the meat, you know, because I've talked about it here before, I've had great success with that. That's another. I keep dropping because I haven't dropped it today much, but the cheat code, that's a real cheat code for building wealth generational wealth with your kids if you have not. And Eva said in the chat too that she recently opened. I'm trying to balance all different channels here. That she had recently opened a Navy federal account, and that she also had a diversified credit union account that she opened up. And when I tell you guys, like if I go hard on it, kind of make a note. What the pastors say, now if I was you, I'd write that down. Well, if I was you, I'd write that down, because that is a game changer for some folks. And the crazy part is, information now is power. Information is power. Say it again. It's not always what you have, is sometimes what you know that can get you what you want to have. And when we talk about what Amit just said about authorized users, I've said this here before for people who may have not been here when I've said it. My Navy Fed, also another pro of Navy Federal, is that they let you add a child on as an authorized user at any age. So your child could be 1 year old, and you can authorize them, add them as an authorized user. You can also tell them you don't want a card to come in the mail, right? But if you do get a card, you cut it up. The child never touches the card, never had any access to the card or otherwise. But imagine the power of building wealth or credit for a child from 1 year old up. And I saw it. I was in the bank, and I was setting my daughters up, and the representative banker told me, she said she had a client who had his son as authorized user since he was 1, and he was now 18 years old. And he was coming in get a car. He was just getting to college, and this kid particularly needed a car to transport back and forth. And he was able to get that car at some ridiculous rate. The kid had an 800 credit score, I believe. Because his father put him on an authorized user at 1 and managed that card. And managing, so this the other part, we got to throw this in here too. It would be a misnomer or it would be malpractice to say this part without that part, without this part. You have to manage the card now. That means try to keep minimal utilization. That means you don't carry, if it's a $5,000 card, don't spend $4,900. And if you do, that's not a problem spending, but you want to pay it off within that 30-day cycle or 60-day cycle, because what you don't pay off, you're paying interest on. And that could be an astronomical amount if you carry that amount. And that's why you got to manage. And number 2, even if you carry a higher balance, it's not going to kill you for a couple months. Let me say that. But what you desperately don't want to do is never, never, never let that card be late, period. Now, I tell you, if there's anything I've earned and learned, I have earned this too. At 50,
auto pay.
Never let the card be late. I mean, it only took me about 30 years to really understand this, but I promise you, I would probably sooner jump off a building than let a car. It's some money somewhere that's going to pay that minimum. Now, I try to pay my cars off every month. But again, you hear me, I always talk about full disclosure. The last couple months, I've carried a little balance because I've had some fluctuations, but it's never going to be late. I mean, when I say it's never going to be late, it's never going to be late. And the reason why I'll say a card will never be late, and this is my accountability, a partnership, because I have my kids as authorized users. So honestly, there is nothing more accountable to me. I will never let my children's credit be threatened. And if you are having those cards, that's the other side of it. If you put them on as authorized user, your activity can hurt their activity. So you got to throw that part in there. You have to say that. You don't want to put a kid on as authorized user if you're not responsible, because you will hurt their potential credit. Again, utilization, it'll balance out in a couple months. That's not the end of the world. But you never, am I wrong about that? Never, under any circumstances, ever let a credit card be late. Period.
Yeah, no, that's huge. When they calculate your credit score and stuff like that, they weight a lot more the payments, right? Because the utilization they know can be fixed out or can be a timing thing sometimes, right? So they get that, but so I use auto pay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I do is I do the minimum for the auto pay, and then I try to pay off my balances within the cycle as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that way you do the auto pay, that way you've always made the payment, you know what I mean? And it's the minimum payment, do that. But I do more than the minimum, to pay off the balances, or if it's over a couple months or whatever I'm doing. but always payment comes out. You know what I mean? And so
No matter what.
I encourage people, encourage people to do that. And the minimums for many of these things are, again, 30, 40, 50, $100, whatever the case may be. So it's not completely undoable. I would encourage people to do that. If you can. Again, we just talked about the unbanked situation. So, we talked about people not having access to doing things like that. But if you can do that, encourage that 100%. Yep. 100%.
Absolutely. And as Amit is saying, we kind of change gears up a little bit of credit, but I don't think it's ever a bad time to talk about credit. So look, we could be talking about the war in the Middle East, and I still think it's relevant to talk about credit. It is how we survive in the United States, if not globally, and you always need to have these conversations. So I'm always up for a conversation about credit because I think it's a game changer. As Amit referred, it's a generational wealth builder. It is a access provider. So always think it's relevant to talk about credit in this space or any other space I'm going to be on. And I've seen the impact. So let me say that to you. I've worked with people around the country training with the financial securities. And when I tell you, if you ever want to see the light bulbs come on in the room, if you ever want to see attention span lift up, if you ever want to see the cameras turn on when I'm doing the training, talk about credit. It's like a wave. The people's cameras will be dark. When you start talking about credit, the cameras start popping on, because everyone can use better information. And another thing is it's evolving too. There are some best practices that stay, but it's an evolving thing right now. In the formula, it's never, that is a whole nother conversation. We need to just do a whole show about it. But I just think it's so unfair that in today's society that we don't know as consumers one formula for credit that's across the board. This secret algorithm in the dark that calculates your credit score is so BS. But anyway, another one. Quick room reset, you guys. You are in the Nonprofit Cheat Code space. If you have just come into the room, I just want to reset so you know where you're at and who we are. Nonprofit Cheat Codes is a place for nonprofits and nonprofit enthusiasts to learn, build, and grow. On the stage with me today, you have Lisa Tinsley, who is the founder of KISA Public Media. And KISA helps African-American journalists to be able to tell our stories more impactfully and have more opportunity to share those stories. You also have Amit Thakkar, who is the founder of Elevation Consulting and Planning. And Amit, as we like to say, is our money guy. Amit keeps the IRS out the group chat. You never want to get that ping or that call from the IRS saying, hey, I want to talk to you. We normally have, they're not here today, but we have Gerald Moore, who's the founder of MSI, Mission Fulfilled 2030. And Gerald Moore and Mission Fulfilled help young Black men to reach their full potential through STEM, tech, and entrepreneurship. And of course, last but not least, we have with us, not today, but she's here in spirit, and that's Tiffany Allen, who's the founder of Boss on the Budget. And we always like to say that Tiffany is the person you want to go to get your nonprofit established or get it reestablished to really make more impact. We like to call Tiffany the queen of consistency. So if you need to get your nonprofit right or get it off the ground, Tiffany is the person you want to talk to. Good morning, Mr. Moore. Happy to have you here with us today. Look, I'm about to get on you now. You keep giving me like this 10% of the show. Where you been, man?
No, so let me tell you. Don't blame me. Blame it on the meat.
See,
you know what happened when you be hanging out with a meat last night.
Wow.
Hold on. I was hanging out with a meat last night.
That is true. That is true.
I woke up in jail.
Wow.
So what happened?
Oh boy.
Wow.
I deny everything. I have no knowledge.
Plausible deniability.
That's
right.
Posted bail. I just posted bail the meeting.
And you still made it here.
Joe, you can't blame Amit now. You in Rochester, so that's what the problem probably lies.
No, I'm home now. I'm home. I left late last night, so I got here about 9:30, and I laid down, and now it's afternoon.
now look, y'all, this the second week. Gerald done called him this droggy voice. I don't know now. Where were the co-eds at? I'm hearing some stories coming out of this.
Yeah, I don't know who Meat left with.
Oh boy, here we go. Here we
He
go.
just
Oh my God.
throw you right under the bus of me. He will throw you
It's
right
all lies.
under the
It's all
bus.
lies.
Right. Wow. Wow. Interesting.
All lies. Oh no.
Wow.
I wish that was the case, but no.
Well,
no,
I'm happy to hear you are active and moving things forward. And obviously, if you guys haven't seen, Gerald made some great announcements of the launch of the Mission Fulfilled John Lewis building in Rochester, New York. And how's that week been for you, Gerald?
Yo, it's been crazy just running around trying to get stuff together. The partnership and the connections that are happening because of this move is stay tuned, people. Some extraordinary connections and some extraordinary things are happening because we have our facility now. So that kind of changes the dynamic of who we are in relation to the work that we do, that we can now host the work ourselves. So, so some big connections coming up, and just great opportunity. But dude, I couldn't leave the building. Like, the building is just, I'm just walking through, at this point, I have every dimension, every nook and cranny of the building in my head. And I actually will be meeting with a designer next week to kind of get everything on paper and what the facility is going to actually look like.
Okay.
In the relation to the different innovations that we're planning to have in the building.
Awesome. And when will you have your young people in house? When will they be active to execute?
Young people will be in house top of the year.
Okay.
But we just put out the information for our first cohort of our Certified Black Boys initiative. So we just sent that information out to the schools. So we'll kick off with 25 boys in that program. And then our Youth Tech Entrepreneurs program, which is a shorter program in length, we'll be putting out the information on that the following week, and letting people know that we're here, and it's going to be going down.
Good stuff, G. Can't wait to see. Definitely hit on that profile there if you are on Clubhouse with us, so you can keep aligned with some of the upcoming announcements and some of the progress of Gerald's Mission Fulfilled 2030 John Lewis building launch. I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm really excited to see what will manifest from this new venture in this course. That to see things evolve, I think, is really a good feeling. But to know where they come from makes it more impactful to really know some of the story behind it. So excited to hear that. I was about to say, because I'm still pushing. I know you guys are fighting me on this, but I'm still pushing to get you guys to come on the live stream with me. At least once a month. Just pop up on the live stream, because one of the things we're working on going forward is we're not going to be Clubhouse has been good. We've learned a lot. We've grown a lot. We've met thousands of people over the course of 3 years. And I think it's been amazing, but we also can't be held by one platform alone. So I think with the live stream, it gives us a little bit more control of where we go, and also what we can do with this platform with Nonprofit Cheat Codes, the impact we can make with nonprofits across the country. So I think the live stream gives us that opportunity. So if you do want to be on Clubhouse, that's great, because we're going to be here. I don't plan on going anywhere. But if you are not on the Clubhouse, whether you're on, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, or X, formerly known as Twitter Live, you'll be able to find us in multiple places, and also be able to pull replays of our content. And I think that's very valuable. Sometimes if you guys could just read some of the inboxes I get from people around the country who will say one bit of information or another has been impactful to my organization or to the lives of me or the people I serve, I think is invaluable. And funny enough, in the Clubhouse room, and I didn't mention it here, so I have shared it online, but I haven't mentioned it. I have Miss Bigums here. Good morning, Jen. Good to see you. And this week, we didn't do our normal Wednesday week this week. So I want to mention here that one of my number one wins in the last 2 weeks is I was contracted to help Jennifer write a curriculum for a workforce development program that she has for her organization. And it took about 2 months to really get it all solidified. And it was a labor of love. I had to really stretch out and get some of my skills activated because I haven't done some of those things actively in the last 10 years. So I had to put my education hat on, and we submitted it and got it to her, and she submitted it to get reviewed by the organization that is sanctioned to give authorization for these curriculums to be accepted. And Jen's curriculum submission came back with a couple small caveats to update, and a couple weeks later, she got her approval for her curriculum, and I want to celebrate it here. Number one, because I'm happy, right? I'm happy that I was able to do a job that will hopefully make impact for many people in the future, but also because it talks about what this room means. And I don't mean to sound a little cheesy or corny here, but that relationship, that dynamic, that interaction is all because of this space. I would have never met Jennifer had it not been for this space with Nonprofit Cheat Codes. So that's a hardcore example of someone who came across our platform, came into our space here, found our show, and because of the connections were made, we were able to really pour in. I was able to pour in specifically into her organization's vision, which I think will have reverberations far beyond today or right now. And I'm so proud to be a part of that. So Jen, I know you probably don't be coming up on stage like that, but if you want to come up and give a shout out, I'm here for it. Raise your hand, I'll pull you up. But that is a testament to what we try to do here and the impact that we try to make in this room. And if I'm correct, I think, well, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to misstate it, but I know Jennifer will be able to employ instructors because of this curriculum. She will be able to employ people in her community to do this service for the young people that she serves. That to me is really a win, all right? A real win. And I appreciate it. So Jen, are you here? Let me see you pop up on screen first before I start running my mouth and you're not even here yet. So let me make sure you get up here. I saw you pop up. And if you guys, I know mine sometimes will, oh, there you go. Okay, good stuff. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you doing today? You're on mute. You're on mute. You are still on mute. You're on mute, Jen. You're on mute. So I'll wait for you to come off mute. In any event, that was a real win. And I just wanted to take the time to be able to shout that out. So come back up when you, there we go. Let me try it one more time. Good morning, Jen. How are you doing this morning? You were on mute, so I don't know if you got to come off your mute. So there we go. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry about that.
No worries. How are you doing? You went out for a second. Come back one more time. I know that's one of them Androids. That's one of them Android phones. Yes, I can hear you. I could hear you for a second, then you went away. I ain't giving up on you, though. So speak up. There you go. I can hear you now.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. I'm going to forgive you for using one of those Androids. It's okay, though. Now I can hear you. Now you got to talk. Now don't be silent. You got me on the screen looking
I'm
crazy.
just making sure y'all can hear me.
We can hear you perfectly.
Jen, where you at? The grocery? She at the grocery store, man.
She had Publix. I know she had Publix.
No.
It's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm actually at my mom's house, and it's bad out here in Polk County. So.
Polk County. Look, I know. Man, see, you talking my language now. I got somebody to sign up. Polk County is a unique part of Florida.
Oh, God. Yes. Michael Hart Academy We got a contract with vocational rehab, and now we can employ teachers to help us teach the curriculum for our individual, and it's everything related to work. You know, preparing for work, going to work, what you need to do when you're doing the interview. Just everything.
well, tell me this though. Let me pick your brain a little bit. So, what does this mean for two parts? What does this mean for the population you serve? This particular initiative, this curriculum leverage for this new programming that you're going to offer. What does it mean for them? What are opportunities that come out of that?
We can get them back into work. First of all, I work with special needs individuals, children and adults from the age of 14 to 21.
Okay.
Anyone that has a IEP or 504 plan.
Okay. Okay. And so this is going to allow them to be a part of the workforce. This is going to allow them to, it's going to open doors for them to be more functionally a part of their community.
Yes.
Awesome. And what does it mean for the people who you can employ? I'm sorry, finish your point.
And to get them, experience, because most people well, they can't hold a job. Yes, they can with training and guidance.
That's good stuff. No, I'm loving hearing that. Number one, I'm being I don't know, but I'm I'm loving hearing your take on it. But about those people that now you can employ, what does that mean as well? The opportunity to be able to give employment or give some jobs to people in your community to be able to teach this curriculum.
They'll be able to help, with the vision of, get individuals back to work besides getting paid and, just the experience of working with a different population. Good
stuff. And I think, and I say this with a little humor, a little laughter, but it's a big deal. And this, to me, shameless plug, and I have no problem giving shameless plugs, but I think it's really important because the work we do doesn't always get acknowledged. So when we can impact or sow into people in our communities across the country, this is the other crazy thing, you guys. Our community is no longer, I tell people this every day, your community is no longer just in your zip code. You're right. Our communities are global. Our communities from this platform alone, just look at the representation of this room alone. This room has people from all over the country, and we don't have a whole large crowd today. But I see New York, I see Chicago, I see Maryland, I see Atlanta. And I know I missed a lot there, but throw in where you're representing. That's why we always ask you guys to rep where you're listening in from, because I think it makes a really big difference that people know our reach. And now with us being streaming online as well on the other platforms, it just expands our territory. So Jennifer, thank you for the work you do. Well, let me tell you this last part, I got to get a little mini commercial. Was the process pretty seamless and pretty straightforward? And was it worth your while to do this curriculum?
Yes, it is. Because this is the first paid service that our organization will get, and it can, go a lifetime as long as I'm involved in the program.
Good stuff. That's amazing. So that's longevity. That's creating wealth for individuals, but also for the people who work with you. So I think that's amazing stuff. And thank you so much for coming up and sharing that. And thank you for trusting me in that, being a part of that process and being an extended member of your team. I've had a really great time getting to know you better and pick at you. And I'm not even going to hold it against you that you repping Haines City, or where my wife is from, that I joke about every day. My family's from South Carolina, a place called Kingstree, South Carolina. Kingstree is actually the formal name. And she always clowns me about Kingstree and my family and my folks. But I'm just going to say, Cynthia, I see you too. You represent Haines City. Look, I'm okay.
Wait. Not everybody that's in Polk County represent Haines City.
Oh, my bad. Correct me where I'm wrong. I'm just throwing it out there that I feel a little teamed up on it here today. Like I gotta throw that out there. Cynthia in the chat talk about Haines City, Polk County. Listen, if y'all know how much I have to hear about Polk County. Last night, sidebar, went to dinner with cousin, my wife's cousin, or our cousin. And he obviously grew up there too. So I had to hear all the stories about, and now look, I'm probably going to get Screwface around the corner here in my office, but I had to hear about the dirt streets and how shoes be making people feet too tender. And I'm like, what? About the dog coming around with the mange. See, I have to be subjected to a lot of stuff in this process, but I'm just going to say I love Haines City and I love the good people there. So I appreciate you being a part of it. And again, thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. I hope it will not be the end. Jennifer don't know she's been adopted, whether she accepted or not. I'm in her team, whether she accept me or not. You can't get rid of me. I'm like the flu.
Oh, I accept it.
You
My
accept it?
once a week calls verify. I have accepted.
I appreciate it. Good stuff, you guys. We appreciate you as well. Thank you for being here. So before we get out of here, we got a couple minutes. Let me just kind of round it out because I don't want to lose the focus for today. We talked about a lot of good stuff, number one, but one of the things to get back to is really talking about unwrapping the power of giving season. We are in the beginning of giving season. We do not have to wait for Thanksgiving for this to start. It is starting now. You need to take ownership of it. Whether you're doing Giving Tuesday alone, or you're starting to share some type of incentive or some type of campaign, you want to start thinking about campaigns now. Do not wait. Jennifer, you included. Make sure that you're thinking about some campaigns. I know specifically because Jennifer and I have talked about it over the last couple of weeks. She's doing a turkey giveaway campaign. Whatever your campaign is, you should have something to attach yourself to this. I don't have the number in front of me and I apologize, but I know it's over potentially $100 billion. And me is the money dude. I'm not. That is going to be spent this holiday season. If you're not digging a little bit of a trough to get just a fraction of a percent of that to your organization, then you are doing a disservice. So I'm highly suggesting that you think about how you can leverage this giving season while people are actively in that generous mood. How are you leveraging it to work with your organization? All right, literally, no matter if you're in the children's empowerment, if you're in domestic violence, if you're in homelessness, if you're in any of these spaces, this is a season to activate. More money than any time of the year is giving to nonprofits during this season. You need to make sure you're getting some of it. You heard Gerald Mission talk about Mission Fulfilled. And look, hijack my link up here. I just looked up. This is a great time to make sure that you're getting donations. Why are you not asking? Ask not, receive not. Open your mouth, because closed mouths don't get fed. And I say that with a little humor, but not much. You got to activate right now to get some of that donation, some of that resource to your organization. It also could be volunteerism. It's not just money. Obviously, Cream rules everything around me. Dollar bill, y'all. But it may be volunteerism. It could be in-kind services. It could be donations of clothing or canned goods. What are you activating? I'm asking you literally, but I'm putting it out there, you guys. You really want to make sure you're leveraging this time of the year. And then the other thing, a couple other things here, I'm going to wind it down after this, but create a matching gift campaign. All right, give you a couple best practices here that you can do. Launch campaign, consider doing a create matching gift campaign. This is a great time for people to match. I've seen it done very successfully. I know some of us in this room have done it very successfully. Lisa, what are you doing for this campaign this year? I know you talked about going live on Giving Tuesday, but what specifically are you going to be leveraging with that going live this year?
Yeah, so this year I'm looking to just strengthen our partnerships, and so looking to receive some additional funds from sponsors or partners that we can use to nourish a relationship, but also have continuous giving throughout 2024 and beyond as well.
Good stuff. And Gerald, I'm imagining that we going live from the building this Giving Tuesday, and if not, why not?
We're gonna definitely try and be live from the building.
Now, I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there.
We live right now for y'all here in the audience. I posted a link, like Mike said. I hijacked the link, but I have to ask everybody in the room that y'all go click on this link and support Mission Fulfilled 2030 Technology and Innovation Center in the John Lewis building as we start some good trouble. And I ask that y'all share this information. Like this, the work that we're doing is in alignment with not only the work that civil rights activist John Lewis was doing, but also a main civil rights activist and racism activist in Rochester, New York, was Frederick Douglass. So we're going to be doing this work in this building, in this city, in alignment with the work that these major powerhouse activists have been doing and continuing to change the narrative for Black people as a whole, and an opportunity to restore the Black family through the work that we do with young Black males. So
stuff. No, you
we got to do. Yeah, I was saying, so just everybody, you know, if you can take an opportunity and just share the information. Remember, sharing a vital part of gifting as well.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about these campaigns, so you just heard about 2 campaigns, and you heard me talk about Team Jenny Bean in the sense that we're focusing in. We're getting really finite about what we offer to create clarity. What is that for your organization? Like literally. Another thing we can do, I told you a couple of practices here before we leave you. Make sure that you're engaging beyond the wallet. All right. Invite your supporters to contribute in ways other than financial donations. As you heard me say earlier, volunteer opportunities, in-kind donations, awareness campaigns, also very impactful. Update and appreciate. Keep your donors, all right, keep your donors updated on the progress towards your goals. How their contributions are making a difference is a really, really important way of showing them the work that you do. And you can never say thank you too much. I promise you, every morning, this may sound like hyperbole, it is real talk. Before my feet set on the side of my bed, I say thank you probably so many times it probably sounds weird, because I literally exercise gratitude. You guys, that is a powerful tool to activate that process to work in your organization and your life. Keep it real. And then lastly, plan for the future. Giving season is just a stepping stone. All right. It just fosters the beginning of this process. But you want the donors to know that they're a vital part of your organization and they're a part of your tribe. Let them know that. But you let them know that by accessing social media. If you're not utilizing your social media and making really shareable content, as Gerald just said, you got to encourage your supporters to really do this peer-to-peer fundraising for you. And as Gerald just stated, this is a part of it, putting the word out there. And this last part I'm going to say here. Stop assuming that you're only getting donations from people in your area. It's not just in your area. And this is something I work on literally every week, multiple times a week, to tell the clients that I work with, your donors they don't just have to be in your neighborhood or your city. Your donors can come all over the world, not just the country anymore, all over the world. But the way that you activate that donorship is through telling powerful stories of the impact. We got too many tools, you guys. If you see me online, you see me holding up my phone. We got too many tools that are utilized for free to not be getting the word out about your organization. So you got to turn it on and turn it all the way up to let people know what you're doing. And closed mouths don't get fed. You got to tell people what you need so you can activate them on behalf of you and the organization you serve, the organization that you started, but the population that you serve. Because at the end of the day, as you probably heard me say, it's really not about you. All right. So whatever that sounds like, get your call to action together. If you don't have a call to action, the challenge this week is to formulate a call to action. All right. What is your call to action? What is the statement of activation that you're going to share for your organization to get that support you need? You got to tell people, does it mean visit my website? Does it mean donate $5? Does it mean donate whatever is possible? Does it mean bring your lightly used coats? Does it mean drop off a can? Whatever that call to action, don't assume people get what you want them to do. You have to tell them. And after you tell them, you got to tell them again. So as we begin to kick off, and I'm saying officially kicking off this giving season, I'm a coin today to be the kickoff to giving season in this space. Make sure that you are getting ready to activate, because at the end of the day, the work won't wait. So you guys ride with us on this one, because this is where we're going to be at all month, different angles of it, but we're going to be talking about it all month long because we want to make sure your mission is being met. Any final thoughts before we jump off? I'll start with Lisa.
No final thoughts. Just have a wonderful weekend, and also just remember the purpose of your work, and just realize that you are making an impact in your communities and beyond. And also congratulations to Gerald. I'm excited about your building, and also congratulations to Jennifer and working with Mike. And I wish you all the best with moving forward.
Good stuff.
And everyone have a good weekend.
Mr. Moore, any final thoughts there?
Yeah, man, just thank y'all, and thank you to the people for showing up and being consistent. And again, like you said, we have to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, because it's not about you, it's about the work that we do. So, and don't be afraid to ask big sometimes. Sometimes we're afraid to ask for the big money. You know what? If you don't ask, you never know.
And
so
right,
don't be
bold,
afraid.
Gerald. I appreciate that. Be bold.
Yeah.
Be bold in your ask.
Yeah, be bold, and think about the wording. Would you consider? Would you consider making this investment in our organization? And it's not just giving us something. Make an investment in our community to do good work. So, would you consider? And if they say no, then what would you consider? Right. And put the focus on them. Right. And keep the conversation going. Treat your people well. Show them the work that you do. Invite them out, and to continue to grow and prosper. And everybody have an awesome weekend.
Good stuff. For me, any final thoughts before we wrap it up here, brother?
Sorry, it's technical difficulties. Listen, I think Gerald said right. Listen, have a good weekend. Have some fun, and we'll catch you next week.
Absolutely, guys. So as we talk about this giving season, we won't let it pass without letting you know that we want you to continue to be a part of our community. If you have not, go to the top of the screen if you're on Clubhouse. Make sure you hit that Nonprofit Nation icon up there. If you're joining in online, make sure you subscribe and like the transmission or the stream here so that you'll get updates when we are coming on next. I have a special guest coming up this Monday night too. I wanted to tell you guys for Monday Night Live. I have a representative from GoFundMe that's going to come in, talk about the power of podcasting for your organization and how podcasts are blowing up everywhere. So you're seeing literally everybody doing a podcast. Chelsea is really an amazing, I would call her a savant when it comes to podcasting. She's reached hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people with her GoFundMe podcast. And that's all going down Monday night. So make sure you go to nonprofitcheatcodes.com and subscribe so you get the email this weekend. I'll be going a little ham with putting the information out there. So I will see you guys next Saturday at 11 a.m. We will see you guys, and join me for this week's Monday Night Live. Emails going out this weekend and all weekend, Monday at 7 p.m. Have an amazing rest of your weekend. We appreciate you guys sharing time with us because we know you can be anywhere. I'll see you next week, and I'll see you Monday night. We'll see you next time. You guys have a good one.